afternoon, good morning, good evening, depending on where you are in the world, and welcome to this week's live session. Who's that?
Me. So I've turned it off.
What was Terry's going to go in? Again, if you're just coming in, just want to check the sound and tech before we get started. So if you can see and hear us okay, just give us a hello in the chat box. Let us know that everything's working okay. You should be able to see me, Scott, Terry, Mike and Don on screen. Obviously hear us as well. Mike and Don and Terry, can you speak?
Hi folks.
Afternoon all. Morning.
Hi Michelle. Hi John. Hi Perry. Good afternoon, Paul. So it's good morning for you, John, isn't it? Yeah.
Yep, good morning.
Good morning.
Just coming in again, give us a hello in the chat box, let us know that you can see and hear us okay, and then get started in just a few seconds. Awesome. So it is Thursday, it's now 2 minutes past 3 UK time, 14th of July 2022. Welcome to this week's session. Again, these are one of my, favourite topics, favourite things in sessions where we take one of you guys, one of our clients who have, used our process in their business, got some results, maybe had their own spin on things, and we interview them and find out, what's working for them, what's not, what's been some of their lessons along the way. And this week we've got Scott Lechley, who some of you will know from around the calls, the Q&A calls. He's going to basically walk us through, some of the wins, some of the experiences had along the way and on his journey. So yeah, Scott, just for anyone that doesn't know you or haven't seen you about the calls, can you give us a brief introduction to who you are, what market you operate in, things like that?
Yes, thank you very much. I'm a cool cat, as Paul says. Looks like it. Anyway, with this, I've got air conditioning. That's what it is. It's just a bit of a cool afternoon. I'm just showing off, really, that it's nice and cool here. So, but other than that, no. Construction recruitment is what I'm at. I mean, I've done contingency for 20 years getting on. I'm from the construction industry originally as well. I did 10 years with Robert McAlpine. And I've worked overseas with Orange and Ericsson in Switzerland and the Czech Republic. So it's been a bit of a wide-ranging thing, and fell into recruitment really more than anything else on the back of the work that I did in Czech Republic with Ericsson. We had to find some other people, and came back and didn't fancy being a QS anymore. So just fell into it really. So yeah.
Good stuff. And can you give us how long have you been in the program so far?
Program since middle of March.
Can you, question for you, just for everyone else, what was going on in your business or your life that made you, initially want to reach out to make more placements? What was going on in your business at that time?
I did a little exercise. I was getting sick and tired of being messed around, I suppose. I had 2 years where I just worked out roughly where I'd actually worked and how much I'd actually got paid for. And the figure that I came to was around about 38% of the time. So I just got to a point, and I spoke to Terry, and it was something that he said that it was more about the taking a guarantee or taking a fee with what's the word I'm looking for? The
Retainer.
That's the retainer. The other bit, the first bit, exclusivity. That's it.
Yeah.
That sort of rang true really, and I think having a conversation with Terry about it, it just made me think a little bit more that there was more than one way to do things. And over the 20 years, I'd always done things in exactly the same way. It was okay, and it was ticking along quite nicely. But I was getting a little bit fed up with things. Same old, and I just felt as though I needed a bit of a refreshment. A bit of a start again. Get ready and learn some new tricks really. And I think Terry came along at just about the right time. So yeah, it was just the right time, I think it was really.
So your fill rate, your success rate was 38%, and for a contingent recruiter, that's on the high side, by the way. So
no, when I say 38%, that's the amount of time that I spent in the office, and
sorry,
I've broken it down. That's how much of the time I actually got paid for. But my contingency rate was pretty good. I mean, I didn't take too much on. I would fill most things that I got. But it just got a bit dull. A few of the clients were letting us down, but yeah, it's it was that's sort of the crux of it, really.
What was it that I guess changed? Because what you're saying. Sorry, how long have you been in business?
20 years.
20 years. So I assume like what you're saying had been, it's nothing new. It's been, I guess, happening, previously. So what was it that I guess made it you get to the point, either mentally or literally, like that actually you don't want to accept that anymore and want to raise standards? What was it that was happening there?
I had a client that I was working with, and I'd worked for a while with, and I'd put, I think, 15 people in, 12 of them on one site and 3 on another, and the 3 on the other was the site that he was working on, and they decided to leave. He didn't like them, and he got on the phone to me and started saying, you sent me some ringers, you've sent me some people that what are you doing, and I bet you've actually pulled them out again, and all this sort of stuff. And I just thought, I'm not taking this from you. And he was sort of saying, he went off on a rant and just was not being great. And I just thought, do I need this? No, I don't. And I just sort of told him a few home truths, really. I mean, it just explained to him that, he might need to look a little bit closer to home. There's those other 12 guys that we've put in have made him, close to £2 million on a £30 million scheme that we put together for him. And if he's going to get on the phone and start whinging and moaning about 3 guys that he's upset, he's created the problem and trying to palm it off on somebody else. Why would I want to put anybody else into his business and work with him anyway? It's their jobs, it's their livelihoods. I didn't need to do that. And it was one of those. I was thinking, what am I actually doing? Why am I doing this? And I'd always found that speaking to people further up the food chain, I know he was the owner of the business, but he wasn't a very nice one. But in most cases, you're well received. I've been in the industry, 30 years, working in recruitment for 20, so I do know, a few things. So it was just a natural progression. I've always wanted to do the search, the retain, the executive stuff, and was dipping in and out of it. And I've carried out a few. I mean, I'd done a global commercial director within BAM, which are massive international contractor. I worked similarly with Lang O'Rourke and Lendlease and Balfour Beatty and all these big outfits out there, and filled senior positions with them. So it was just a natural step, and it was a good time to make that decision to make a change, really.
Yeah, there's a saying that we talk about a lot, that what will motivate you is wanting to avoid something that's going on. So in terms of your motivation, Scott, what was it? Yeah, what was going on? You thought, I want to put a stop to that. Was it clients such as that? Was it a lot of time you're working, not getting paid? Yeah, how would you define what your pain was?
I think it was a long time coming, really. I mean, I think it was just the same old. I always felt that I hadn't done as well as I should do, and I always, blamed it on something else, whether it was a client or whatever else. And I've only started to just realise that now, with all these processes and some of the stuff that we've been going through, that you can change things. You haven't just got to put up with stuff. You can, be your own master of your own destiny in a way if you do change. And as I say, if you always do what you've always done, you'll always get what you've always had, type of thing, isn't it? And if you change it, then you'd hopefully change things for the better, really. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work, but at least I've tried.
Yeah, that's a good point. If you keep doing what you've always done, you're always going to get the same result, aren't you? So you then made that decision. The other thing I'm interested, just as a reference, how did you know of us?
Do you know what? I got a text, an email from you, and I listened and watched the video. I think she was Dutch girl. I think I've explained this to you.
Oh yeah, Daisy. Yeah.
And some of the stuff that she was saying was very much what I was saying, but I disregarded it, and just thought, another one of those videos, sort of thing. Is this real or is it not, sort of thing, and I disregarded it. And I got a text message. Do you want to have a conversation, as you did there, a triage call? And I was supposed to speak to a guy called Vinny, I think, or one or the other. And then it got cancelled, and I got somebody else. But I did think, am I not going to get Terry or Drew or whatever else? And as I say, I got these other 2 guys, and they just went through things, and I just thought nothing of it, really. It's okay, fair enough. It's just going through this. And then I got to speak to Terry, I think we got on, and that was the biggest thing. And it was, there's an element of trust that you've got to put into it. But I did actually think that there was, a bit of chemistry there, that we were talking the same sort of language, really, and that we knew we had similar experiences in recruitment, and you were believable. And you just take a chance sometimes, and it was one of those. I went home and said, should we do this? Should we not? I mean, it's just like, well, yeah, if it's going to stop you whinging and moaning, do something, so.
I take it that was your better half talking to you.
Yeah.
Again, just a quick thing, just for everyone else listening. Again, I didn't say at the beginning, but this is any questions that you've got that I've gone on the way, anything you've ever wanted to ask Scott, or anything you're wondering about his process, please feel free to ask in the chat box. We'll pass questions to Scott. Again, this is the opportunity to suck any information that you want out of a client that's doing really well. Sorry, Dave, what were you going to say?
Yeah, and just to illustrate there, and it applies to all of you here. If you think about it, I was talking to earlier, Peter. If you think about the relationship that we have, I've never met you. Some of you guys are, in other parts of the world, but just be aware of the process that ends up that you have that conversation, because that's what we're demonstrating. That's the process that you want to get your hiring managers to go through with you. So you want to be, and we talked Tuesday about social proof, and what Scott is talking about. We sent Scott, and you've probably seen as well. We send out on a regular basis testimonials from clients and what they say about us, because nobody can sell better for you than your clients. It's extremely powerful. And we touched on this yesterday. I know we're sort of digressing slightly. Just be aware of the power of social proof. Just be aware of when you've got testimonials and you can send them out. Mike, I'm going to come to you next, and then for you, Don. Yeah, any questions, by the way, feel free. We'll come back to you in a moment. Scott will ask you some more questions. I was going to come to you, Don, but I'll let you ask that question rather than Don.
Very, very technical, Don. I don't have tactics. I just think I'll shoot from the hip most of the time. I don't know. It's strategy is something I've learned or tried to learn, and that's a big thing that I've tried to do in terms of putting process into place. I've never been one for sort of process before. It's just literally come in, do what you need to do, get on with it, and see where it takes you. But I've actually got quite a lot of process and procedure in place now, which allows me to come in. I've got a list on the wall there that tells me what I want to do when I come in, and I've got a list of one that before I can go home at night. So strategy, yeah, I've now got one because I didn't have one before. And I suppose tactics, it's just follow it, follow the list, really, more than anything else.
Yeah. Excellent. Thanks, Scott. Mike?
Just picking up on a couple of things. I think the one thing that Scott's demonstrating here is the willingness to change. It's to say, okay, what I've been doing was working, but it's not been working as well as I wanted it to. And just saying, okay, I'm going to embrace this. I'm going to take this on board. I am going to change, and basically just trust the process, because it is a process. And if you go through the process and follow it as Scott's done, and I'm sure he'll talk about some of the results that he's achieving, those results are out there for everybody. But there is a process to go through to get there. And Scott's just embraced that. And hats off to the guy.
Mm. Yeah. Yeah. Again, big takeaway there. It is about taking action. I'm going to come to a few people. I'm going to come to you, Michelle, Peter, and Paul. Any questions? Yeah, and anything you want to add to in terms of what Scott talked about his early days? Hi, Michelle.
Hello, you okay?
Yeah, good, thanks.
So you want me to ask a question?
Yeah, if you've got any questions, yeah, and yeah, do you relate to some things that Scott's said so far as well?
Yeah, I think absolutely. I think we've all obviously come to something's happened, hasn't it? That means that we end up on this program. And I think for myself, similarly to Scott, I've got a similar level of years experience, and I think enough is enough. And you get to that point and think, there must be a better way, and there is really. But I suppose I don't know what you're going to be talking to Scott about, but I mean, one of the questions I think most people would ask was, did you have any sort of reservations, or was there any areas that you felt were sort of really difficult for you, Scott?
In terms of
just making the change that you needed to make, really?
Not really. I'm just one of these that if I decide I'm going to do something, I do it. And I think it's probably my makeup and some of the stuff that goes on in my head, sort of thing. It's very much just get on and do it. I mean, I'm also involved in the local rugby club, cricket club, and there's a sports club as well there. And I'm now on the board to, we're building a new clubhouse. And I was very, I don't want to get involved. I don't want to get involved because I know full well what a committee is about, meetings for meetings' sakes and, doing stuff for the sake of doing things. And I've just said that was one of the points of getting involved. And the reason I've said yes is because I will walk away if it becomes that whole committee meeting for meeting. And that's where I am. I think it's very much a black and white, get on, do it or don't do it. And I suppose it's, if I've decided to do it, I just will do it. And there's some of the stuff that Terry and Drew have said, just do it, just get on and do it, do it. And it's like you said as well, I think, Michelle, a couple of times that, you might necessarily feel comfortable in doing it, but just give it a go. What can you do? You can go wrong, or it could go right. You never know. It could be the best thing you've ever done.
I think
so the big tech. Sorry, go on.
Just on that, I think that's one of the ways I would describe you, Scott, is that our sort of easiest clients to work with are the ones where we say do X, Y, Z, and they just go and do it. They're still scared. They've still got all these concerns that everyone else has. They just go away and do it, and that's one of the qualities that you've got. You're just really quick at implementing because it's almost as if my perception of it is that you do it without thinking about how you feel about it. Almost just do it anyway, and then worry about afterwards, and then see the results and see what happens. Is that how you just would describe yourself, or do you?
Yeah, quite impulsive. I mean, I have a tendency to speak before I think sometimes, and I've always been of that sort of disposition, really. And sometimes it works with clients, and sometimes it doesn't. And some people, you say by people. Some people like it, some people don't. And I've got to the point in life where I just think, oh well, it's not. Yeah. You've got to get on and just do what you need to do, really.
So, again, another question I had for you was, one of the things that you've done really quickly, really early on, as you said already, you've done some retained, but historically been contingency. You had a lot of past relationships with old clients who have been contingent. And one of the things you've done very, very quickly is moved them, or at least a handful of them, to retained, or at least exclusive with cancellation.
Yeah.
I guess, how did you frame that to that? When you're speaking to a past client who's used to having a contingent service, how did you frame that to them that, this is the way we're going to do it from going forward, and how to get them to buy into that new?
I told them the truth. I just literally said, I've joined this group and they've told me to do this because it'll make me more money. And they laughed. And I said, this is the way I have to work because I'm going to go back and tell them that this is what I've done. So, and they said, well, what do you mean? I said, well, basically, between me and you, I said, all I'm doing is raising my rates anyway. It's either you take it or leave it. And they did. And they laughed. The two of them, were quite happy to. And they said, well, why didn't you ask us earlier? Because we would have, one of them said to us, well, if you'd have asked us, 6 months ago, we probably would have just put the rates up anyway. You just haven't asked. So, yeah. But they're a decent bunch of people. And as I say, some of them I've known for 15, 20 years. And, they're more like friends, and they know that if they ask for something, I'll get it for them.
So just a case of if you were to summarise that, you just asked.
Yeah. I didn't go around. I just said, look, it's one of those conversations. What have you been up to? What you've been doing? What's happened in the since we last spoke? And I've just said I've decided to put my rates up because I've been told to. Yeah.
And were there any other than those two sort of?
Yeah, there's a couple. I mean, I thought I'd got somewhere with Rob the Knob. I mean, Terry knows about him anyway, but he was up and down, couldn't make a decision. And I've given him a chance. We're halfway there, and he's backed out. But I've just submitted an invoice for the time that he's wasted. So he's got a third of a fee coming. I haven't done anything, but I'm more impressed with that than actually filling the position. I think the fact I've got some money out of him for nothing. So
you've raised an invoice for him wasting your time, in a nutshell.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
So were there any clients or you're working with who you explained to them, but they needed a bit more clarification or offered more pushback, apart from Rob Knob, as you call him? But any way you sort of, I guess, put it across in the more.
Well, all the 5 that I deal with, there's 5 that I've known for years, and they've all embraced it. There's fine. I mean, I haven't gone up massively with them. I mean, a couple of them I'm at 20, and one of them I've got to 25. So, and another one that was at 15, I've gone to 17 and a half. But for me, it's fine. And I know that I get paid. I know that they're easy fills most of the time. And, there's no hassle with them. They ask for something, I go away and get it, and they pay for it. So there's no hassle. It's not a tough one. I just want to supplement those with some of the, the more important ones or the bigger ones that, hopefully you'll have similar clients that will work on the exclusive and the search basis. But I don't think I'll ever let these other guys down. I've always worked with them. I'll always will, I think.
Yeah, Max, I'm going to come to you in a moment, buddy. I just want to go to Peter and to John, and then I'll come to you, Max. Yeah, just your thoughts, Peter, and any questions?
Different reasons for sort of joining the program, but a lot of it sort of rings true with us as well. Sort of shooting from the hip, just coming in and just doing what we do, and just sort of was doing all right. But then we sort of thought, well, maybe we can do better. I've got in big letters and underlined Scott's list. We haven't got to our list of things to sort of do the next day, sort of thing, or like a process in place yet. But I can see that we're sort of getting towards that. But yeah, we just sort of, it sounds good that if we follow the program, everyone seems to have a good amount of faith that we will just get there, just stick with it. And yeah, we'll get there in the end.
Yeah. Excellent. Thanks for that, Peter. And John.
This John or the other John?
Hi, John.
US John, sorry.
It's a great name, powerful name. Scott, great work. You've helped me outside of the group a handful of times here, so I know you're a modest person, and I'm wondering if any of the training pieces you have put the Scott Lechley flair on of your own and have seen more success by doing that, and if you'd be willing to share maybe what that's been.
I think it's stuff that I haven't done before that I've implemented, and there's a couple of questions on there about how have I presented it to retained or potential clients. I think the only way of doing a lot of this is pretty much telling the truth. I mean, I can't remember well enough to actually, if I've made it up and whatever else, I can't remember that I've actually made it up. So there's no point making it up in the first place. So I've learned that. I think I've signed up for this. I can either commit to it. I think we had the conversation, didn't we? You can either do it. What's the point in signing up if it's a proven tactic? And the thing that got me is that not fell for it is the wrong word, but the whole process worked on me. I'm the biggest cynic out there, and I just looked back at it and thought, well, if it sounds good and I'm thinking it's good, hopefully it might well be good. And as long as I follow it and give it my all, then there's no reason why it couldn't work for me as well. And I think we had that conversation. I think it's, pretty similar for yourself, isn't it?
Yeah, it definitely is. And you realize that we're kind of going through the same process that both Terry and Drew used on us anyways. And like you, I'm pretty cynical, and I don't fall for things, as you said, right? And so if it worked on us.
Well, I wanted to make it work as well. I didn't want to be one of those that's fallen for something and used it as an excuse that I've not tried hard enough. to actually do it, because if you, like you say, you've committed to something, just do it. Yeah.
Excellent. Thanks, Scott.
Okay. Thanks, Scott. I want to go to Max next, and then back to you, Drew.
Scott, love your energy and the way you go about things. My question is, if you're talking to somebody, a new potential client, I'd love to hear you, as if I'm the client, explain what your fees are and your payment schedule, how you present that.
I don't, I've just had a question here actually, and this probably relates to it. Terry's just asked me if he can share something. I'm a late diagnosed ADHD. I only had it diagnosed probably, it's not been properly done yet, but we're in the process. It's 2 years down the road. And I've always felt that there's been something missing, always felt that I could have done things better. I'm okay. And what my biggest worry is in all of this is not just what I normally do, is go hell for leather at the beginning, get halfway through it and think, I can't be arsed with this anymore, and go and do something else. That, I think Terry described it as that shiny toy thing, and that resonates with me. I had my own, thought processes on that. But yeah, it's a tough one. But going back to what you said there, how would I do it? I just try and be myself. I take the conversation, I try and stick to the triage call, and I try and stick to the sales process. And I've got that in front of me. I'll go through it and I will stick to those lines. I find it very, very, very difficult to actually stick to something like that without going off on tangent, because stuff comes into my head all the time and it just comes out. Most of the time it works out okay. And I think, mechanisms and learning mechanisms and defense mechanisms that you've learned over the years allows you to deflect things, I suppose, in a way.
So what do you say to somebody on a call when you've told them your fees and it's a third, and they say, well, you mean I got to pay you if you don't place somebody, if you don't come through?
Yeah, honestly, I'm quite flexible on some of that stuff. I mean, I explained to them at the very beginning that third is a commitment. It's a commitment for us to work together. I say it'll benefit you as much as it benefits me, because you'll have my full attention. I don't want to be giving you that money back. Once you've given it to me, that's given me the go ahead that says, we're working together. You've got my full attention, and by hook or by crook, we will get this, sorted. I want that commitment from them, because if I haven't got the commitment from them, then, I'm always wary. Do I go off on a tangent with somebody else, or do I not give you my, full attention of what I'm doing?
So is the last third contingent upon success?
Well, you got the third. If you got the first before you sign up, the
Right.
second once your interviews have been arranged, and then the final fee is based on the salary at the end of the assignment, and it's the remainder of that 30% of the total fee salary.
But do I pay you if I have not hired one of your people for the last third? That's my question.
No, no, you don't. But I'll keep the first two.
Got it. Thank you.
Excellent.
So yeah, Scott, I just wanted to I know one of the big things we got from the program was having a process. So again, my understanding is that before, you felt like, and again, obviously in part due to the ADHD, which was probably not diagnosed initially, but you didn't really have a process to follow. It was just, as you were at health level in one thing, and then you just quickly changed direction. I guess, how has it helped you now? Having, I guess, a process to follow, has it helped? Has it been harder for you having a process you have to follow?
The fact that now I've got a list and I've been under pressure, and sometimes I need to be put under pressure, gun held to head. You need to finish this by a time, otherwise I won't bother doing it. And the fact that, I've sat here and said to you lot, that the ebook that's done, apart from a few grammatical corrections, that's done. I said I'd have the process done. That's ready. It's done. It just needs to be sorted out and put on, finalized. That'll be done by the end of the month, as I've promised. And if I haven't got that, sometimes I just won't do it. I mean, it's very much to the point where if I've got something to do and there's no one chasing me for it, I'll do it 5 minutes before it needs to be handed in. And what really frustrates me is most of the time it's done really well. And I just think sometimes if I'd have spent a little bit more time on it, I could have done it even better. And I just haven't fulfilled everything I've done, even with the business. I just feel as though sometimes it's not been, there's still stuff that I want to do. If you know what I mean? I just feel unfulfilled, I suppose.
Do you feel unfulfilled, did you say, Scott? Sorry.
Yeah, I think, yeah, that's it. I mean, Jane puts up with, I mean, I've said to you before, Jane puts up with loads of stuff with me. I'm a, you know, I go off and do stuff. I just do things and I just get, you know, fixated with it. I mean, like that bike ride I did, you know, I've not ridden it since because I've been out a little way, but not massively. Let's put it to one side. I finished that. And I've got a
Just for those that don't know, Scott rode from one end of the country of the UK to the other. In America, that's from one road to another. But in the UK, I mean, how many miles is it? About 900?
Just under 1,000 it was.
Just under, yeah. So Scott did that. And all credit to Scott, by the way. He attended a Friday call on the ride. I mean, the Lycra wasn't attractive, but at least he attended the call. And if you don't mind me saying, Scott, it was a little bit too tight, but we'll leave that one there.
Well, well, there you go. They didn't do any others, did they? So there we are.
You can fetch the recording as need be.
Yes.
So have you found like that you sort of needed the accountability, extra accountability to help keep you and your mind focused on the task at hand, or
everything I do normally I need to it needs to be accountable. It needs to be a goal. It needs to be a target. If there's no target, you don't need to do it, you know. I mean, I'm a nightmare. I mean, my VAT is done at the very last minute. I promised an accountant every single 3 months, and I was chasing Terry for an invoice, and I leave it literally to the 11th hour, to the point where 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock on the day that the money's due, I'll pay it then because I don't need to otherwise. If I had to
tell your clients that, Scott.
Sorry?
You know when you're positioning your service, you know, being true to yourself, do you tell them that, you know, in terms of, look, the way I work is I need that, you know, for example, I need to be fully accountable for the success or failure of this position. That's why I need that money up front. Do you kind of put that into your spiel?
Not really. I don't know. I thought about that and I thought, well, why do they need to know all that sort of stuff? It just seems like a sob story really more than anything else, where it's not. It's more of I think I could use it to say to them it's an advantage. Look, you know, you get me on side, like you've just said there. However, I'm then planning something. I don't know. It's a great point, and I think I have thought about it, but I've always shied away from doing stuff like that. I haven't really, you know, this is the first time I've really said it in a big group.
I think what you're saying is like, you know, I know it is ADHD and it is obviously probably for you more extreme than a lot of people. I think though what you're saying and the way you're feeling, a lot of people can resonate. Where you know, I'm basically not speaking to clients and how I feel myself is that people do benefit off accountability and do. I think part of the retained service is having that commitment. It does mean you put more into the search. No, ADHD or not, it does. I think for everybody, if you've got that. If the responsibility is put on you as the service provider, like you're gonna do more.
But it's that whole label thing. I everybody people goes on about labels and everything. I've always been like this, and I've always been a bit here, there, and everywhere. And it's made it easier for me, but I found it more difficult to explain it away. I don't want an excuse. I don't want to be sort of saying the reason I'm, you know, might mess up or might do something different is because of X, Y, and Z. It's not what it's all about. For me, it's helped me because sometimes I you know, it explains why I am like I am, and I've got it's made me easier and it's made it better for me, knowing full well that it is something that's not necessarily wired up correctly. But I think you have to be slightly different as well to be a recruiter and to put yourself in front of people all of the time and be in a position you leave yourself exposed a little bit.
Here's a question for everybody else. And just if you're happy to answer this question, do you identify with that? With this, like some of the symptoms of ADHD, such as difficulty paying attention, hyperactive, impulsive behaviour. Just type yes or no in the box. And look, if you don't want to share, that's absolutely fine. But just just type yes or no in the box, because I have an opinion. Yeah. Yes.
So everybody's got it. It is, and it is yeah.
It's a recruiter's trait, I think.
I actually think I don't know about recruiters. My opinion is it's quite, I say normal. It's quite common amongst entrepreneurs and business people.
Yeah,
it's quite this finding here. I'm not at all. That's why I asked the question. Because that and that input. See, I keep talking about this, but to go off on business, you've got to be prepared to take that gamble. You've got to be prepared to go. Because you go off on business, nobody's paying you wages but yourself. You don't deliver, you don't get paid. So you've got to have that impulsive, that risk-taking type attitude towards you. So yeah, it's interesting. Majority of people say yes in this, which is quite revealing, but not surprising.
It's quite interesting then, if you're dealing with like the C-level executives or those entrepreneurial people in your business, is for all of us, then surely they're the same. Because what frustrates me is when you're talking to a client and it's like you're positioning your business and you're saying about retained, and it's like they're pushing back and you're like, what you want me, if you want me highly motivated, if you want me to prioritize your position, this is what you've got to do. This model is how it's going to work. I sometimes think that, because I deal in sales, I sometimes think that like VPs of sales, they wouldn't even get their team to do something without making it highly motivated, like very clear, and yet they want me to do it. I'm like, no. So yeah, it's quite interesting if we all feel like this. Maybe our clients feel like it as well.
Scott, so just a question for you then. So again, one of the things you've done well is one of the things you benefited from is the process. Can you give us like an overview of how you structure your day? Because you think, again, when you come on calls, when you come on Friday calls or Thursday calls, it seems like you just get so much done. You seem to be able to get so much done in a day or in a week. How would you set up your day, just for anyone else who maybe feels similar to how you felt at the beginning, who maybe got this maybe it's not labeled as ADHD, but got the similar traits? How do you set up your day to make sure that you get in everything you need to get done?
I've got a piece of paper which is stuck on the wall there, which breaks everything down. They've got stuff to remember every day, plan for the day, jobs for the day, jobs for the week, and jobs for any day of the week. So in effect, it's broken down to say that when I come in, I've got to make a point that I jot down everything I do. It's a big thing that I've always tried to do and I've always failed at. And if I say jot everything down, I'll get most things down, because I know full well I'm not going to get everything down. What I have started to do has made a big difference is the goals. I'll revisit those, I'll change them, I'll have them up there, and it's something that Mike said. Mike's made me do this. I don't think it's anybody else. It's more Mike's reflection and everything as well. And that the morning start and trying to get. I'm struggling with the morning. I've managed now to get up at 6 o'clock every day. I'm proper grumpy, and I'm less grumpy than I used to be. But
anybody notice, by the way?
Me being grumpy?
No, you'd be less grumpy. Has your wife actually said that? Or
she'll be in a minute. I'll bring her in and sort of say to her, "Is he grumpy?" And she'll just walk off again. Yeah. So no, that's what I got to remember. I'll come in and I'm just trying to get myself outside. I've been outside. It's easier when it's this weather, but if it's raining, it's a bad day already. I know it's going to be a bad day if it's raining. But anyway, go back to this list. It's remembering stuff, opening stuff up on the computer. I've got 2 screens, so I open up everything that I think I'm going to need during the day. I've got a big thing on templates as well now. If I've done something once, I'll have something else. I'll keep making templates or snippets or things that will make my life easier, that I can add to the schedule that I do, the process. I've just signed up for a new process software today that I'm going to try. I've had another one, but I didn't necessarily like it. I'm going to transfer it in there, and they become a list on one of the screens that I will follow for each of those processes, whether it be LinkedIn chat, whether it be working through my database, whether it be working through how I send out emails and what gets processed through that. And I have things.
Can I just check in with you just a second, Scott? Can I just check in with you? I think you said there, just templates. So, example, if you speak to a candidate and you've arranged the interview, be it with you or whoever, you've got a template email that you send to that candidate saying, just to confirm, and you just fill in the gaps for the time and the date. Is that's the sort of thing you mean by templates?
I'll show you on here if you want. Just drag it on and share the screen. Hold on. You see that? Can you see this screen here? Yeah.
Yeah.
I have some templates. I mean, CV templates, whether it be interview templates, like a daily plan. This is my daily workflow. This here, that's the list that I work and I print out and tick off during the day as and when I finished it. I'll show you the interview templates as well. Gratitude, or is it? There's the CV template that I, fill in and go through.
So just going back to the daily planner, you effectively, setting yourself like a daily routine that you have to follow, print it out every day, and then just as you go along, ticking it off. Is that how you
pretty much
keep yourself organised?
Yeah, and it's all linked into the calendar, so I'll drag and drop tasks. I mean, I've got a position in the afternoon where it's just a free area, which I can drag and drop items that have come up or certain areas of something else I need to do. But in the mornings, it's come in, the 10 before 10s, the LinkedIn chat, and then anything else to do with the marketing side of things as when you come in. So this, I'm just going to read it off here. I've got a daily notes on here as well, which I do every day. So in effect, these are my where I'm speaking. So say, for example, this one, I've got to create a new event, and I'll write all the notes in here, and then I can save this every day. So how these work are with my training. These I think this is the one. No, that's the wrong one. Hold on, I'm just a bit. Yeah, these are the seminar. These are Thursday afternoons. Say, for example, there's the triage call that we did earlier on. I can't even open it now. Sorry, I'm all over the show here. These are the notes that I would have made, and I'll go back through and write up in another way of doing things. There's Dan's meetings, just highlights of notes that we can actually review later on. And then again, just if there's anything that's come up to read, I'll pull these in, and I'll drag these over to the stuff that works in my to-do list or my calendar as well. So that's the stuff that I do in the morning. It's the focus tasks in the morning, stuff that I think I can do that I need more focus on, whether it be pulling up new ideas for chats, new ideas to send out as lead magnets, which I've just pulled in and started including now. How many meetings that I need to arrange that day, how many triage calls. So I've got the economic calculator open, that's on my wall as well, and I know how many I need to do at a certain part of the day. And then there's other stuff as well. When I first come in, it's like, clear the workspace, make sure that things are added to the calendar so I can actually go off and do things. And then the jobs for the day, it's the number of LinkedIn connections. Have I, gone through and connected to the maximum number that I'm working to, and send those invites out. So that's the 10, 15 new connections guaranteed every day. And then I'll make sure that I'll have 20 to 25 messages with various different people on the LinkedIn chat, or follow up any other messages that I've got that have come back from either Recruiter or LinkedIn. And then the calls, I've got a summary sheet for those, and I'll just tick them off, and I'll record what who I've spoken to, and I'll change people's statuses on my database as well to make sure that I know that they've had the one call, or if I've had multiple calls, or whether or not they've accepted their LinkedIn requests. And then the reminders to send out to candidates, sorry, not candidates, to clients to that links in with Calendly.
And so, how do you, I guess, how do you deal with? So you have your set plan for the day. How do you deal with, I guess, like emergencies, or not emergencies, probably the wrong word, but things that come up during the day, like candidates didn't show up, or different things that can spin your schedule out of control or off plan. How do you deal with those?
I've got gaps in my afternoon from 1 till 3 where I've got 2 hours in there that I can drag and drop. Anything I've missed in the morning can go into a half an hour slot in there, or I can create other areas within that 2 hours in the afternoon to catch up on, whether it be writing LinkedIn posts or so. That's quite a flexible time. Between 1 and 3 is an area where I can add to. It's a fallback area. Normally we've got something here with us at 3 o'clock on most days. Well, Tuesdays, Thursdays and Fridays. So that's blocked out for the hour. And then from 4 till 5:30 or so, that's when I just tidy up and get everything ready for the following day, making sure I've ticked things off, making sure that database is up to date. And that's all ticked off on the bottom here as well. So there's, end of the day that the plan has been, anything that I've written down is transferred into the places it needs to go. Anything that I've dumped in during the day, I've got an app called Drafts, which anything that happens, it gets dumped in there and I can allocate it from certain places from there onwards as well.
Awesome. So is this what you'd put down to, you being able to be so productive? Like I said, you always seem to get so much done in a week or in a day. Is this what you put it down to, that having this daily plan that you stick to?
If I know, the worst thing that can happen is if I come into the office and not know where I'm starting, or not know what I've got to do, I just won't start. It just won't happen.
Yeah.
I'll just go out.
Can I just check in with everybody here? Type yes in the box if you can relate to that. Just or no, if you don't relate to it, just type yes or no if you relate to that, what I just said there. If you come into the office and you haven't got a list of what you've got to do, then very English saying, bugger all gets done.
Mike, I just want to, just while people put in yes or no in chat box, I want to come to you, Mike, because I know probably about a year ago now, maybe longer, this is something that, similar sort of journey to what Scott's going through. I remember you using the word that, any white space in your calendar is like I can't remember what word you used, but, is a bad thing. How would you add to what Scott said, or do you resonate in any way?
I think 100% resonate. I think the last thing I do for my computer switched off, whether that's 5 o'clock in the evening or whether that's 10 o'clock at night, it won't get switched off until I've got my plan written for tomorrow, because I cannot come into the office without that plan. It's and I've been like that for years. And I think Scott's the epitome of the 7 Ps, isn't he? Properly prepared plan prevents piss poor performance. Because if you come into the office first thing in the morning and you know what you're doing, you'll hit the ground running. If you come into the office and you haven't got your day plan, you'll spend the first hour shuffling bits of paper, answering emails, it's just a nightmare for having a bad start to the day if that's not done. And I think anybody who doesn't plan tonight for what they're going to do tomorrow, I'd suggest it's a good idea to start doing it.
I think it's Brian Tracy that says planning improves your productivity by 20%. From non-planning to planning, improve your productivity quite substantially. Yeah. Thanks for that, Mike. Excellent. Don, I'm going to come to you for your thoughts, and I'm going to come to Robin, Terry, and Lance for your thoughts and observations.
Yeah, I think what Scott's doing is fantastic. I've adopted a lot of what he's talked about, as well as what Mike's talked about in terms of time blocking. I find there are specific times during the day, such as for me, 9 to 10 in the morning for the 10 before 10 calls. You'll see that on my calendar every day, Monday through Friday, right? And so there are specific time blocks during the day that are, I think Mike's words are non-negotiable. And I really don't book client calls during those times, like ever. It really doesn't happen. And so I think you have to treat your calendar, look at it as repetitive events. And these meetings I block out, I'm sure everyone else does as well. I use electronic systems, though, more so than printed paper, just because I don't want to deal with printed paper. And I find for me, it gets lost half the time. So So I do everything electronically. I have a to-do list where if I'm, and sometimes, I don't know if you all are like this, but sometimes I'll have a decent thought about something, just like in the middle of doing another activity. I'm focused on doing whatever, but something pops in my head. It's like, oh yeah, I should do that. I don't do it right then. I drop that in the to-do list to do it another time, right? So I think it's that discipline of knowing where things go, what structures work for you, and it sounds like Scott's got one that's working well for him.
Yeah, that's right. That's a good point, though. What works for you? Yeah, it's a really good point. Thanks, Don. Robin, good morning to you. Yeah.
Good morning. Good day to everybody. No, great stuff, Scott. I really enjoyed seeing your process and seeing some of your templates. I'm huge on templates, and I have a document, we'll say 20 pages of all the different things that we want to say depending on a situation. But I think what I really took from what you were showing was the need to set daily goals and in numbers. So whether it being 5 new LinkedIn connections, get on the phone with 3 clients, whatever that structure is going to look like on a starting point, we just have to start that process and then morph it along as we go. But definitely that's what I'm taking away to implement right away.
Excellent. Yeah. Thanks, Robin. Thank you. Hi, Terry.
Hi. Hopefully you guys can hear me. I'm having internet connection problems this morning.
Yeah, I can hear you great. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Scott. You've just made me feel motivated, but also bad at the same time because you're so organized, and I need to get there.
Honestly.
Excuse me?
It's not always like that, honestly. It takes, a lot for me. I'm more tired than I've ever been. It's a tough one, yeah. And this is what I'm worried about. I can't keep it going. That's my biggest issue, yeah.
I think it's wonderful. You have a plan. And I think what I take from it is that I need to do a better job of planning. I plan my day, but a lot of times a client calls, so I stop what I'm doing and I get on the phone with a client. I don't really block it off, especially when I think, okay, it's a business. I got to go. Let me do whatever. I mean, even like our last call here, I was on this call and I had a client call about, she wanted to change. I think I told you guys that they wanted to do a direct hire. And so she called about it. She wanted to change or talk about the agreement. And I jumped off this call to get on that call. And I really need to learn to stick to what I'm doing and not jump off. It's kind of hard sometimes when I know it's money, right? But I need to just say it has to wait. So thank you. And I will definitely start implementing blocking my time.
Excellent. Thanks, Terry. Lance.
Hi, everybody.
Hi,
I had a bit of an epiphany. I got COVID about 10 days ago, and it knocked me right out of my socks for a good 5 days of the 10. And I literally couldn't do anything. I had to sit in bed and just so I thought, wow, I fell way off the wagon. Just off the whole recruiting plan, the Terry Edwards show, the everything. So it was. Now I feel almost like I've got to get back on track with all sorts of things, like restart the mornings and restart the training and restart even the Audible and but a little bit of it was actually a good break, quite frankly. It was like almost having a vacation in the middle. I couldn't work. I literally was that sick. I could not work. So, but a couple of points. I was listening. The contingency versus retain thing always pushes a button with me, and I want everyone that does contingency to imagine you work for someone else and their business model is retained only, and that's all you can sell. No option. You cannot do contingency ever again. And, if you didn't have the option, how would you phrase your pitch? How would you phrase all the conversations around that? And also when people say, look, I've had a really bad time with recruiters, ask them, are they contingency only or have you worked with retained? Because that's a differentiator quite often. So, because some people say, well, recruiting is really expensive and, all the standard sort of complaints we hear. I would just put your headset on if you haven't done retained, and imagine that there's no other option. You have to do it. Build it that way. Build it from that mindset. Maybe that's a whole different module, but the other thing was just balance. I know we talk about procrastination and ADHD and stuff like that, and I think a lot of us are struggling sometimes. I know I do with like, I really want to do this right now, but I know I have these 5 other things to do. And it's almost like you need to say, okay, you're going to reward yourself, get the 5 things done, and then you can do that personal thing. But, draft it out, almost like, I often think of like, when you're getting parental advice when you're a kid and your parents would say, well, once you've done your homework, you can go out and play. It almost feels a little bit like that, which I think is hard for us to stomach as adults. But there's an element of that where I remember my dad used to always say, like, do your work first. And I don't know about everyone else, but I struggle, daily with those sort of things, because you really do see shiny objects and you want to chase them down. So I think some of it is sometimes to say, okay, well, if I do all this, what's my reward? Where do I get with this? As an entrepreneur, how am I going to please myself? What vacation or what reward do I get for doing all this stuff and staying on track? I don't know, just food for thought anyways. That's it, Terry. Oh, one last point.
Thanks, Lance.
Yeah. Oh, sorry, one last point. CRM. Coley and I are using a CRM pretty much every day or every other day. We get in there and look at our pipeline. I find the structure of that fantastic. And it's a drag and drop, so we can move cards around like a Taleo type board. I just find for us to have conversations as to where are we at with this new business development pitch or this speech or that client or potential client, the structure of the CRM really is a nice skeleton for us to work off of.
Excellent. Glad to hear that. Thanks for the feedback, Lance.
I'm glad you're back to Land of Living, and sorry to hear you've been under the weather, but we did look after Coley when you were away, Lance.
Nice. I was thinking you would, Mike. I knew.
That is hilarious.
I started sending him gift cards,
Oh, we did too.
Yeah. Nice.
Hilarious.
Thank you, Mike. Cheers.
Thanks, all right. Scott, we spoke, I don't know, a couple of weeks ago, and you shared with me some of the apps and some of the, you shared some of it now with the templates and so on. And we also talked about, some of the other things you said with me was mindset. So I want to ask some questions, first of all, around mindset and what's been the change there around your mindset and how that's impacting your business. So if you would start with that, mindset, what has been the change there is the first question for you around mindset.
Audiobooks have been fantastic. The first one was, I can't remember what they're called, the American guy.
Yeah. By the way, he's Canadian and he takes offense when he's called American, but he's Canadian. It's Brian Tracy.
He's one of them. Yeah, he's one of them over there. Yeah. That was Brian Tracy. That was fantastic. And a one that had a big impact is Paul Moore. Paul Moore saved my life. I mean, I just feel as though I wasn't a drug addict, but I do have some sort of similarities in terms of what he's gone through and how he sees things, and it's all or nothing. And I'm now listening to the Habits one as well. I can't remember which one it is.
Is it James Clear?
Yeah, brilliant.
Yeah.
Really, really good.
Yeah, it is, yeah.
I've listened to that over and over, and your bits and pieces, and made notes on it. I've never do that sort of stuff. And I've actually I'm going on holiday, and I bought a Kindle. I don't read that much. I could never have sat down, but I've got some books that lined up, and I've actually tried that. I've left my phone downstairs. I don't take it anywhere now. I've got. Well, my wife's actually made a box in the kitchen. I have to leave my phone in because she says I use it too much. So there's a box in the kitchen that she's made me use. And just having somewhere to go. Mindset, because I've got a plan or because I've got a list, it just makes my life a little bit easier. I've always been a bit of a laugh at people who have pieces of paper and lists and things to remember things. I used to be able to remember loads of stuff and telephone numbers, people's names. Sometimes I can't remember people's names anymore. I think if you get to a point where it's overload or old, I don't know what it is, but
combination of the two, I suspect. And then, and in terms of mindset, what particularly about your mindset has changed? What particular aspect of it has
I
changed
think I've
for you?
missed working with people or having contact with people that isn't initiated with me phoning somebody up to talk about certain stuff, the same old. And, you know, I think this has been great, this whole working with you lot, just massively different people, but doing the same sort of things, different experiences, different parts of the world. Just, I think this is the most, you know, Friday afternoons, I thoroughly enjoy Friday afternoons. It's a little bit more relaxed and you get to speak to people, and, you know, some people have had a really good week. Some people have struggled that week, or they've got questions. And you always, if you've got a question, it'll get answered. You know, it'll come up with a decent response and something that you can actually go away and implement. It may not be exactly what you would do, but it gives you a starting point, somewhere to, you know, I don't know where to go. Right, here's a starting point. Take this direction and see where it takes you, and come back on Tuesday if we're stuck at a crossroads, and we'll point you another direction as well. So, yeah.
Excellent. And the other thing is, you said in passing, right? It wasn't even a one-to-one session. You said that you go for a paperless system, and you then shared with me some of the apps you use and so on. Just tell us a bit about that in terms of how you manage your office and tidy desk and all that sort of thing. I thought it was very interesting.
Yeah, I mean that the app I was telling you about is in the corner there.
We just to let you know, buddy, we can't see it on the screen. It's
no, but it basically you just click on that, and anything that I speak or whatever, any notes go in there. You know, it goes in there.
So,
and then
sorry, Scott. What's the name of that app? So we can share it with people.
I'll show you on here. It's called Drafts. Where is it? There it is. There. Just move that chat out of the way. So you know, you can just bring up something in there. So notes, yeah. And then if you want to send it to either your...
Scott, sorry, buddy, we can't see your screen.
Oh, sorry, I've not shared the screen, sorry. Is it on again?
Not yet. Okay, it's coming on now. Yeah.
Right. So this app here, so I've just written notes in there. You can then send it to, there's my email, that's my to-do list, that's my day one. I can have such a box, or you can send it to Craft or wherever. Say, for example, that notes, and I've just made that note and I want to make it into a to-do. I'll just click on that. It will go through and then appear in here in that inbox. And then I'll allocate those to wherever they need to go, because that's that one that's just been brought through there. Or if I want to write a note to day one, write it in there, and it'll click it, save it through, similarly to my notes, or whether it be a text message or whatever else. So that can be done from either my phone or even on my watch, where you can just hold it down, talk to it, it'll make a note in there, and it'll transfer it and dump it onto your page where you can allocate it from here. So everything goes in here. This is in effect a landing page, which then allows me to link it in with all of these other systems as well. You know, these are my to-do lists. That's my note system on a daily basis, whether it be today's notes, and these are any other meetings that I've had during the day. And I can just create a new event on there, and I'll make some notes for there. They appear in here, and then you can search on any of these things as well. So for example, if there's triage calls, anything we've done on triage, it can bring it up, and there's the script and everything else in there. So everything's just there, sort of an easy place that everything's dumped in here within a structure, which I've copied on both of these. So in effect, you've got areas, projects, and resources, and then archives when you don't want to use them. And it's a similar in here. So everything replicates. So I can save stuff, I know where to go, and I know where to dump it. So you dump it and then allocate it and then work on it. But what we've also tried to do is come up with some new ways. This is the cold emailing on the LinkedIn side of things, where there are campaigns, projects that we go out with and, you know, send them out. This is very new. I've only just had this last week, so it's quite in its early stages. But basically, you have campaigns that you write. If you click on the campaign, you can then work through the steps, each of the steps, and they get sent out through various different projects, different names, different areas that you can send it from. But this works really well, and this links into my database as well. So any changes that I make within that source file, these get updated. So if a message goes to Chrissy Gordon or Gordon Chrissy, or Derek Grattan, that'll automatically be updated within this system. And then you can pull these along each of the stages that they go through. So within here, this is the ATS side of things on the contacts, the jobs, and the candidates linked into it. And then there's a section in here called deals, which I've just worked out. I didn't even know was in there, but you can use it like Pipedrive or the other system that you that Drew gave me the other day, where you can pull things across from there. But this ultimately is populated from my database or by Get Prospect. And these are the early stages, so that works really quite well. And I've taken on this one, what's it called again? Active Campaign. It's fantastic, and I didn't realize it could do half the stuff, and I'm just in the process of learning that one at the moment as well. But what's happening with all of these is that they're all ultimately going to be linked. So if I make a change within Sourcewell, it'll update my database, then it'll ultimately update the warm emailing that goes out from those that have signed up to any marketing. And as I say, we spoke this morning about the lead magnet, and that's something that we're going to introduce this into there. But something else within the database, which is the search section, which allows you to do searches very, very quickly. It pulls in massive Boolean searches by putting in one word phrase. Say, for example, you've got project manager, it'll bring in all of the words associated with project manager, or director, it'll have MDs and CEOs and anything that might be of relevance, MD, founders, co-founders, and it'll bring it all together, and then it'll bring you leads the following day. This will allow you to find out they all get dumped into companies in effect, and these companies have all the contacts within it, and you can drill down into each of the company names and get the leads, the managers, and whatever else. But it also allows you to find those candidates as well on a
right. Excellent. Yeah.
So there's loads of stuff that goes on, but if anybody wants to have half an hour to go through it, I'm quite happy to answer any questions if anybody wants to do any of those things as well.
That's really good of you.
Can I ask a quick question, Scott? If you're on an interview and you're interviewing a candidate,
yeah,
how do you manually take notes and write that down, or
I record it? I record it. I've just got it on my phone. I record it on the telephone, so I'll take it there. I follow this in effect, this script here when I'm speaking to a candidate. It's this one here. I've got this. Hold on, wrong one. There we go. Pull that out. So it'll be the summary of it, the exit motivation, preferred position. So these are the questions, and I'll take notes for each of those sections as and when they come up. So we've got all of the information you need from there. This then that gets transferred into a form which automatically updates the database.
So you've got no paper in your office at all?
I've got this piece of paper. Is the only bit of paper that's on my desk, and that's because I printed it out and stuck it on the wall.
So that's really impressive.
Yeah, even if I get anything that comes in, I'll scan invoices, and I've just used BoxNet scan on the phone. I'll take a photograph of it and either throw the bit of paper away or put it in the drawer, but it's there, and I'll file it and I'll send it to the accountant as a digital copy, not even as a paper copy. It goes into a folder on my box file where they're all similarly replicated on here, which then, if I go, I can show you on there. Everything's in the Finder in a certain folder on the box file, and I've just saved them all in there. There's and these are the sections that I use. Whether it be admin, all the notes get filed into there. There's the accountant stuff. All the jobs are listed in there. The candidates are folded in, into certain sections where they need to be. It's all clearly laid out in terms of, there's a planned method behind the madness sort of thing. But everything's in there, gets scanned in.
Makes sense. Good stuff, mate.
Yeah, excellent. Thanks for that. Come to you next, Don. Just to let you know, Scott, Terry USA wants to know how to reach out to you. So if you can answer that question, then we'll get to Don?
I mean, I've just put my email address on there. If anybody wants to make contact after this, it's fine. Or I'll put my telephone number on. There we go. Oh, there you go.
Thanks for that. Excellent. Thanks for that, Scott. Mike, sorry, Don, question for you. I'm going to come round to a few of you. And the question I'm going to ask a few of you is your biggest take. Before we wrap up, just want to know from a few of you your biggest takeaway. I'm going to come to you, Perry. I'm going to come to Perry and Kevin and Max for your biggest takeaways. But Don, first of all.
Oh, well, I've got a question, Scott. Given that you've been in the program now, I guess, 4 months? I'm curious, there are a number of people that have joined here very recently. I'm curious, based on what you've learned so far, is there anything, what would be the thing that you might recommend to them, I suppose, coming into the program, the newer people?
Take notes on those Thursdays and try and implement as many different things as you possibly can. Those notes that come through on a Thursday, but I also think both Tuesdays and Fridays are different as well. Come to as many as you can, because there's stuff that you'll learn from each of them. The more you come, the more you'll learn, and the more you'll sort of implement. Sometimes it's quite over-facing, but you get to a point when a lot of it starts making sense and it becomes a little bit more second nature. At first you think, how the bloody hell am I going to do that? How am I going to work this or do that? But it does become easier. It really does. If you just think about it and do it rather than thinking about it.
Yeah, that's a good point. Thanks for that. Oh, thank you. Thanks, Don. Perry, biggest takeaway for you?
I would say great session, Scott. Thanks for sharing. But I think for me, it was just like you said, like the planning, but also just this latter part that Scott's just been going on about around kind of just the organisation of all the processes. Really, there is a lot of processes. There is people everywhere, and I know. I mean, I joke about like my siev's got more holes in it than kind of any drainer in the world. And I think, just having kind of, this is something I need to look at. And Scott, just that, your email address hasn't come through in the general chat. I'm not sure if you've sent it somewhere else. There you go.
Sorry, I've just done it now.
There you go. Yeah. But yeah, I'd be really interested in catching up with yourself afterwards about kind of, because we use Vincherry as well, and we're all set. Hey, go, where the hell did this come from?
I've had a bit of a do with them this week as well, in terms of that they don't explain anything. They just this fancy new system, but I've now back on the new training systems and the training plans with them as well, and the university. And if you ask them, they'll give it to you, but they just don't give anything for nothing. I just said I was leaving, and it's amazing how much nicer they've been.
All right, so we'll pick this up, but no, it was just to say, just that whole planning and making sure that your plan and your structures are in place is just as key as the process sometimes. So I know I've been looking back at some of my old data this week, and there's over 1,000 people that have just kind of disappearing out of the process.
Yeah, give me a shout. I mean, I'd be interested to see how you use Vincherry as well. So it'd be great for both of us to go through. Live lists and all that sort of stuff, which is all very good.
Yeah, great stuff. Now we'll do. I'll drop you an email.
Thanks, Perry.
Cheers.
Kevin.
Awesome. Hey, thanks for all. Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thanks for all the info, Scott. Very helpful. Some of my biggest takeaways was I definitely related when you mentioned if you don't come in having a structure of what to do for the day, you kind of feel like you're all over the place, and sometimes it's even hard to get started. And that was just like a reminder for me that if you ever feel like that, just go back to the activities that are going to move the needle and generate revenue for you. So like if I'm ever stuck, or I'm like, gosh, I have so many things to do right now, but like what's really important? Like what need is in your business at that time? And most of the time it comes back to, at least for us, getting new clients and doing the activities that are going to generate revenue. So that was just a really good reminder that ever feeling like you're scrambled, just prioritize that. So that was good. And then also diving into audiobooks. I've gone through periods of time where I've listened to some books and even read some books, and then I go through longer periods of times where I just don't. So getting consistent with those, actually taking the recommendations from people in this group on those books and submersing yourself in those, and then showing up to showing up to all the calls, and just soaking in the content, and I feel like it's going to be big, and I need to prioritize that.
Excellent. Thanks, Kevin. Thank you. Max, what's been the biggest takeaway for you, buddy?
Well, first of all, this is our first week, Robin, and my first week in the group, and I'm just blown away with all the good stuff coming our way and generosity of everybody sharing. Scott, I love what you had to say, how you go about your business, and my guess is you must have been, or you still are, a hell of a rugby and football player.
I've given up all of that. I'm too old for that silliness now. Yeah, I'm playing on Sunday actually. Well, there we go. I'm probably coming in with bandages on Monday. So yeah, or plaster casts.
Yeah. Love your drive.
Cheers.
Excellent. We're going to wrap up now. Just to remind you, I think we posted it in the Facebook group. Next Thursday, we're looking purely at lead pages and how to create a lead page to capture leads and everything. So Drew's going to be taking most of that. So that's next Thursday. Just to remind you. Tomorrow we got the weekly roundup hosted by Mike and Don to come and join us for that. Scott, all of us, a massive thank you. Really appreciate that. You shared some absolute gems there. Biggest takeaway for me, two things. Yeah, clearly you take action, and you like to be organised, which is great. And that whole policy about no paper, I absolutely love that. And you think about it, technology, there is no need to have any paper on your desk, really. As you said, you can just scan documents or whatever. So yeah, thank you very much indeed, Scott. And also your generosity for saying, look, reach out to me if you want to have a one-to-one. That's really, really generous of you. So much appreciated. Thank you very much indeed, Scott. You're a gent, even if you are an Arsenal supporter, but we'll leave that one there. Listen,
Mike, you have word. Yeah. Have word.
Excellent. Seriously, come and join us tomorrow. Same time tomorrow. For those, if you didn't get Scott's details, reach out to him in the Facebook group. Dead easy to reach out to people in the Facebook group. Join us on Friday. Thank you very much for joining us today. Until next time, folks. Take care. Take action and be relentless. Cheers, guys.